So what are CD extensions? This is something that we've been working on for some period of time, and it's really about getting quality of life for our customers. As we are finding gaps within the software, things are not available for them that they were looking for, we are providing those tools for them. And so we're starting to add to that tool set, and we found that some of the things that customers are requesting for us, we're turning around and finding lots of other customers that need the same thing, or we're building them ourselves. We're finding an ERS that is not going anywhere with Infor, and so we're building them ourselves. Now, we do some co-development where things end up directly in the product, but sometimes if we can build it outside that, we will build it outside of that because it gives us more flexibility to get it to you sooner than later and not have to wait for the development cycle that happens. It's a lot about quality of life. We're trying to enhance this product and give the product more and more life all the time. The one thing I do caution anybody, if you're managed by a channel partner that's not Central Data, please have that partner contact us directly for more information, because we cannot sell you the product directly. It has to come through them. I don't like to be in the business of stealing other people's customers. That's not what we do. So I'm just going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the Q&A box, and I will try to answer them live so that everybody here gets to hear the answers, and I'll be glad to address any questions you have, or set a follow-up to do it at that time. So the first one we're going to talk about is dunning letters. So I did this at Tug, and somebody said that there's been a flag on the customer record since Trend 6, and there used to be a dunning letter that came out of CloudSuite, or out of Trend, out of SX, and now out of CloudSuite Distribution, but we haven't seen it for a long time. There's just still a flag on the customer record. So we wanted a way to alert customers that their balances were due. Some customers were going out and buying expensive collection systems to replace what CloudSuite could do just because they couldn't get a dunning letter. So we created an automated way to create a dunning letter out of the software for your customers. So this is the first thing that we wanted to address, and so I will jump right over to my CloudSuite instance. This is where my extensions are. I'm going to go into AO because this is where they get configured first and foremost. Right on that defaults page, we added several options. So the first thing is there's up to 3 dunning letters. You don't have to have all of them. You can have just one of them. But how many days past due do you send letter number 1? How many days past due do you send letter number 2? And how many days past due do you send letter number 3? What's the minimum amount on open balance that you're going to send a dunning letter? And do you include credits in that letter? So those were all options that needed to be, or we configured into this tool. The next thing was in the customer setup. So go into customer setup, you will notice we didn't have to add this flag because it's been there, like I said, forever. So the dunning letter has been there for forever. And so if you configure and turn on the dunning letter, you can start getting the dunning letters sent out to your customers. The next question is, how do they get them? So they get them in one of 2 ways. It will either be email or print, and it's all based on statement configuration. So if it's email, it will be what email addresses are set for the statements. If it's print or it's EDI, it will just print. So any other thing besides email will just print on your printer, okay? Those letters are all defined in IDM. So if you have the ability internally to create your own IDM documents, then you will be able to configure these documents. So included in this will be the templates for all 3 letters so that you can then configure the letter the way you want to. And so this is the template, not the actual letter, obviously. And then in the software, you will then run a process, ZARRDL, which is my dunning letter, and that will run, and you can schedule it so it can come out the last day of the month. The report, this is the report. And so the next thing is, do you want a customer range? Do you want a customer type? Do you want a statement cycle code? What's the date of the letter? Do you want letter number 1? Do you want letter number 2? Do you want letter number 3? Do you want to enter a list of customers? Yes or no? So I'll say yes, and we'll just say customer number 1. We'll add that person, and we'll say yes to all the dunning letters. Again, we could have created a copy. And then do you want the report only? By default, it's no. Or we could say yes, we just want to know who's going to come out on those dunning letters. We'll run that. And again, we'll run it on a schedule, and then out will come an email to your customer that says, hey, buddy, this is letter number 3 because he owes us quite a bit. You're seriously overdue, and here's a list of all the invoices that you have open in your account. Now, this is an incredibly valuable collection tool for you to have, and so it gives it the ability to send that out. It's not just a statement, it's that letter that people like to send out. So that is the dunning letter solution available in our catalog. And what we do with all of these solutions is they all have a fixed price because they're in the catalog. We have a fixed price for the solution, and then we charge time and materials to install them because everybody's environment's a little differently. There's a little bit of configuration that has to be done, and so we just install them in a time and materials way. All right, I'm going to move on to number 2. So number 2 was remove lost customer. Oh, and dunning letters are, most of these are in current production with customers using these solutions. So we do some things in a lab, and but most things we do right to you're seeing stuff that's already live. So remove lost customer usage. So one of the things that came up at the original advanced inventory management or inventory management user group subgroup within TUG was Grant or several of the customers brought up, hey, when you lose a customer, I still have their usage in my ICSW, and therefore I'm buying based on that customer that I know is lost and I'm not going to gain that usage anymore. So I want to downgrade how much I'm buying of that product accordingly. So what you have is a new Q&D program here, for lack of a better term, that goes through and it says, hey, if that customer is lost, I'm going to go find all of their usage and override the usage for that product for that month down to less that usage and put it in an override code. So I would go into, again, I go into CloudSuite Distribution here, and I'd run ZI calc, which is my program to do, and I would run that, and the report's just going to tell you that it did it, but it's going to say, what customer did you lose? So I lost customer number 1. What's that usage override code? What code do you want to put in ICSW override to indicate that it's lost? So maybe it'll be LB for lost business or whatever it is. What's the email address that you want to be notified about that? And do you want to do the actual update, or just like we did with the dunning letter, do you want to just see a report that tells you what happened to be what we would take away from usage? So you'll run that, and then if you go into, and I think I did this for TUG, so I'm pretty sure that I have it out here because I already gave up the usage that I need. No, that's ICSP, sorry. All right, under replenishment, usage, and I don't see it. So what you should see is in this override usage is it should be instead of 23, it should be, like 5 and LB for lost business because we lost that customer that generated 18 of those 23 sales. So that's how we would ultimately get that down. And so now, again, we're buying based on that new information that we've gotten. So that's our remove lost customer usage calculation. The next one, display screen acronyms. We have a lot of users who are coming from SX, coming from Trend, and they need to know the information about what screens they're on because all they know is the acronyms. Or they're just in CSD and they only know acronyms, so they're looking for, hey, what's that screen acronym? And so you'll see across the top what we've done is we've done an enhancement here that says customer setup, that's the normal thing, but ARSC. So now we're seeing both the acronym and the screen values. So it gives you both options, so you can make the choice of that gives you the information you're looking for. All right, next one. This is one that had bothered me for quite some time, and so I did it in the lab, and we're now rolling it out and deploying it for at least one customer. Many distributors have expenses where more than one GL account needs to come into play, and the problem is in SXE and in CSD, there is no way to have more than one GL account on a vendor and an expense vendor specifically. And this was frustrating to me. And I'm like, this should be a simple solve. Let's go out and solve this problem for our customers because it will benefit a lot of people by doing that. So, and if I go into APSV here, and I go under my Colorado Springs power vendor, under normal circumstances, you just have this expense asset GL account. But down below here, you see that I've actually added a grid that can be as full as you want, and that has 3 different accounts on it, and I've spread that percentage over 100% because you're going to get a dollar amount and it needs to spread it in some way. So I've spread it 20, 30, 50. Now, you do have new functionality with importing GL into AP, but this saves all of that trouble because you're doing this up front. You've already configured the GL accounts, and you're going to be doing it every time. So now that I've created that spread out here, now I go into APECE, and the finance people, they don't get as much as some other people here. So I'm just going to enter a new invoice, and I'll put it in for Colorado Springs Power. And we'll say it's $100 for today. And when I click save, comes back and there it is, right? I'm done. So as a finance person, I didn't have to go through the trouble of, again, re-entering those GLs or importing them from Excel because it's, I have to have 14 Excel spreadsheets. I just did it all up front, so it's done, and I don't have to do it later. So we'll delete that guy so I don't forget to take that out of the system. But that was the goal in making that enhancement. Again, all about quality of life at the end of the day. All right, the next one is for if you are a company that does blankets. If you're a company that does blanket releases, you get a number of blanket releases, and you know that sometimes you get a release that's right now and you need to release it right now, and you have to run the cancel convert program, and it's just time, right? So you don't want to wait, you want it to happen right away. So if we go now into OEERB, which is our blanket release for orders, and we put in our blanket release number. So we do a search, there it is. And we say, hey, we're gonna do a release in there. So we'll create a, oh shoot. We'll create a new release. We'll create a new release, which is release 7, and we'll say the promise date is today. They want it right now, right? They're not waiting any time for it. And I want to get the pick ticket out for them. So we'll go into the line items and we'll say, let's release, 500 of those. Okay. So now that's an entered stage. But the issue becomes now I have to wait for cancel convert to run. So instead what I do is I just select that. There's a new button here that's called convert that says convert. I just click on that button and now it's ordered. So it's converted it right now. The pick ticket will print and it will go to the customer right away. No waiting for the extra time or having to run a separate program. It all happened on the same screen. So just an efficiency thing for anybody who does a lot of blankets, which is what we ran into here. This is a great enhancement. We do the same thing on the PO side of things. So when blankets are released for POs, we're doing the same thing. So the same issue occurred on the PO side of things. There wasn't a way to quickly release a blanket PO. So if I go here and enter a PO, a blanket PO, we'll see that we can create a new release. So it's release number 2. Oops. Say the order date is today. We'll go into the line items. We'll release 500 of those PO blanket. And now we're going to run our convert again. So that will automatically change it to ordered stage, and that thing will go out to the vendor right away without, again, having to wait for that to happen. All right. I don't see any questions or chat at this point, so I'm going to keep plowing along. Thank you again for being here and joining us. Got a good attendance. So the next one on our list is the ship to drop down on customers. So when you are in order entry and you select a customer, the MRU that shows up is based on the most recently used ship tos, but those may or may not be the ship tos tied to that customer even. So it becomes a confusing time because you're looking at customers that you don't even want. So here I am in order entry and I go into, let's say, customer 3. If I click on the ship to, it says that's Corporate Express, right? That's whereas if I go into C&M Supply, I see a list of ship tos that are totally different. If I went into order entry in my non-modified environment, well, I don't have a ship to that I selected recently. Let me do this. Corporate. Let me pick that, and then I'll pick this guy. And then you see the ship to that shows for me here is not the ship to that's associated to that customer. So when I select that, it changes the customer on me. So I don't want to do that at all. I don't want that to be the case at all. So I'd rather not have that happen. And so it saves my users the trouble of trying to figure out what's going on. They just don't see the ship tos that aren't associated to that customer accordingly. So that's again just a nice time-saving enhancement for your users. All right, the next one, this came from our finance team. There was a number of people that gave us feedback that they managed a lot of non-stocks. Hopefully you're managing your non-stocks in some way, ICEAN, for those who are used to the acronym for that. And the problem with the ICEAN is you can't tell whether somebody's managing it. So from a finance standpoint, one of the things that, for those who know, Jan told me is we can't tell if somebody's managing that non-stock at any point. So if I come into the screen and I enter my warehouse here, and I drill into my non-stock, now I have the ability, and this is only one record, right? I only have one adjustment that I'm dealing with it all here. But if, let's say I had 400 things here, I want, as the finance person, to know that the reason that this is here is because I'm waiting for a credit from the vendor. So I'm putting in a short note, just something to give me that information to let me know that, hey, that is important information. It's being handled. I'm working on it. I've already paid attention to it. All right. Now I move to the next one, which is our CD Focus report pack. So a lot of our distributors are running Focus. Focus is a great reporting tool. We've had great success, but there's not a ton of pre-built reporting content. So we started creating our own report pack to speed up the adoption of Focus and to give customers things that they would normally expect were in the solution, and things that they can't get necessarily from CSD. But there's about there's 40 reports in there: AP, AR, inventory, financials if you're doing finance, and a lot of sales reports. So sales year to date by customer type, rep, price type. So if you're using Focus and you want some of those standard reports so you don't have to build them all from scratch, this is a great tool that we built around that. And we will continue to add to that report pack. Now, the next one is probably the most popular thing we've ever built, which is around search. So if you're using search because you came from a previous version of SX, or even if you're new to CSD, you've had some frustration with how quickly you can find inventory. The search is all based on relevance. How relevant is the information you're giving it? And then it's producing a result for that. And we wanted to go back. We looked at it and said, hey, what if we could do it also, not to eliminate the current search, because sometimes we need to search in things like customer product number and interchange and stuff like that. But what if we were just looking at ICSP and we were looking by product number, searching with left to right search? And it's improved the search quite a bit. And we're continuing to take some feedback on that. But just to show you this as an example. So if I go to the product relevance, this is the normal search in CSD, right? When I do that normal search, you see I've got a bunch of products here, all of which that one dash is part of the description. Has nothing to, it's not in the part number. It hasn't even brought us one of the parts that start with one dash, right? I see a question here. Hang on, I'm going to try to see if I can figure it. The acronym, from Mike Seidel, the acronym extension is really cool. Do we reach out to a BC for a quote on that? Just reach out to your CSM, or you can just send me an email, Mike. So anybody who wants a quote, is, as long as you're a central data customer, just send me an email. That's fine, and I'll make sure that we get that for you. Okay, so yeah, that's question panel is weird. So if I type one dash, again, I'm not seeing anything that starts with one dash. So if you're bringing in parts from an external source, let's say you're bringing them in from Bosch or Makita or Bimba or whoever that may be, and you're prefixing them, then now all your results are not finding the things you're looking for. So along with this, and again, we did not eliminate the current search at all. Along with this, we added the other search. So when I go to the starts with search, now it's going left to right. So you see one dash brings up, starts with 1-001 and goes down and doesn't stop at 10 records. I believe the limit is 250 records that you can see here. So you can quickly go by the prefixed part number and find that part and then just go, hey, that's the one I want. Now you notice it quickly filled in the regular search, so we didn't have to build out the regular search. We did that we along with it, so it would cover both of them. And that search is in both the product inquiries in ICSW. ICSP does this, but ICSW does not. It does all the advanced line entries, OET, POET, WTET, OEIP for the customer pricing inquiry, and then the lookup modal, which is when you're getting inside into the more granular searching and that kind of thing. So any questions about that? This is a really good one and will help in your experience, especially at the counter. We see that improves the process a lot. All right, moving right along here. Next are in CD transfer. So CD transfer was about sourcing to a different warehouse. So this is clearly a better way to source from one warehouse to another versus the way you have to do it today. So if you look at the standard CSD process, and I pulled up a product here and it says I don't have any available, I would go to sourcing, I would go to transfer, I would see the list of warehouses that I could put it from, so I could select it from Dallas, and then I would have to drop down and say I want to direct order it if I wanted to drop ship it. That's a lot to get to, right? Whereas if I come down here, I have a new screen just below the screen. This tab automatically opened for me down below. I just easily pick Dallas as my choice, and then I check the box that says WT Direct, which sets the disposition as WT Direct, and then I can source the line. So I'm done, right? I didn't go to sourcing. I didn't pick. It's just here in line with the order line. And this again is an incredibly popular solution. We've had a lot of people buy that solution because they have multiple warehouses, and just managing that tends to be a little difficult. All right, moving on, updatable grid. So we need to update a mass amount of data on a large order, and the current process of calling up each line is difficult at best. And so we actually are allowing for the line grid to be updated. This is super exciting. This is something that customers have been waiting for since the beginning of CSD when they rolled it out. This is something that they kind of talked about, and they never got to yet. And I say that because Mike and his team, they're working pretty darn hard all the time to enhance this product, and I admire them. It's a pretty hard job. I've had people come to me and say, well, what if they change the search and make it do what yours does? And I'm like, fine, then we will stop selling CD search. In the meantime, we want to help customers improve their business and get more value, and not wait until they're at that point. If they're there and they give it to you, great. If not, in the meantime, you're getting what you need out of the product. So I'm going to go into this particular order, 1002136, and I see that I have 7 lines on this order. If I go in to edit those lines, you'll see that I actually have 7 lines, and a lot of them are duplicates. You will immediately see, oops, sorry about that. You immediately see that a number of the columns are in white. That means they're updatable. So quantity ordered, price, product cost, and margin are all updatable today. And as we get requests and as we do development, we'll add more fields to that process. And so the nice thing is, because we are in a grid, we can just filter this down, and we could say, hey, I want to update just 1-001. So think about it. Under normal circumstances today, what you have to do is you have to pick that line, you have to go in and say, I'm gonna charge them, you know, $13.75 for this one and hit update. And then I got to go back to the grid and I got to update the next one. Whereas here, I just come here and say I want 2 of those and I want them for $13.50. Just have to wait a second while it updates. I want 1 of those. And then I also, again, could come over here and I could change the margin and I could say, okay, you know, 15% margin, and it would reflect the price per that change. So I did that based on a filter, so I could clear the filter and have all the lines and make all the changes all at once. So if you get a large order, like a 50-line order, and you have to update a lot of lines at the same time, or it came in electronically, this is a great way to do that. And like I say, we'll add more. We're working on a few more in the background. Nothing to show you yet, but this catalog will continue to expand over time as we get more and more requests for these kind of enhancements. The next one is related to the CoNo. So we have a couple of customers that have, oh, sorry, Mike. This question and answer box. Okay, so I'm gonna go back real quickly. I got a question here. So from Joe Savage, okay, does the part starts with search only hit the user's warehouse and OET, or does it show all the warehouses? So it's going based on ICSP and ICSW, Joe, so it's working based on the ICSW. We originally were just doing ICSP, but people were like, but what about availability? And if I pick that product, then it doesn't, if it showed that, then I pick it, and then it's like, oh, you can't use that product because it's not in that warehouse. So all the things are standard out of the box, and then we can always enhance those standards to add functionality for you specifically if it was something you want to do. The next one was Mike Seidel. Does the updatable grid follow SASO rules? 100%. So if they don't see cost or they don't see margin, those aren't in the grid, they can't update them. So, you know, you have that ability to secure that, Mike. Jason says, for the edit lines extension, does the number of lines on the quote order impact the speed of refresh when you make the change? If you have 100 lines, does the refresh speed increase significantly? No, not really. The big issue is that every time you make a change, just like if you were bringing up the line and hitting update, it's going through the back end and retotaling the order. So in some ways, yes, you know, if it's a 900 line order, it is going to take longer than an order that's of smaller size, but it shouldn't really be significantly impacted either way. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, moving right along. Oh, so I was talking about the browser tab CoNos. So we have a number of customers who have a number of companies in CSD, and they can't tell what company they're working with. So we went back and we actually registered a Chrome extension to enhance the product. And it does work in Edge as well. I'm not sure about Safari. I haven't anybody asked me about Safari at this point, but you'll notice on the top of my screen now, it says this is CoNo 143, whereas this is CoNo 1, this is CoNo 150. So that way, if you have an employee and they work in multiple companies at the same time, you don't have to like run an incognito window. You can run them all at the same time. It's just a matter of which company am I in right now. So, you know, that helps, and again, helps the experience with that. All right. Fixed inquiry headers. So this is something, this is kind of interesting because I've looked at websites and this is something that happens all the time. So one of the things the customers were feeding back is, hey, I roll down the screen. I've got all these different cards within the different inquiries, and I roll down the screen and I lose my menus. And so then I have to roll back to the top of the screen. And so this is in all the different inquiries, and we'll go through some of those. But if I go here to ARIC under normal, a normal standard CSD instance, if I roll down the screen and I get to the bottom of the screen and I go, oh, hey, what about the general tab? Okay, so we'll scroll back up there, we'll go to the general tab and we'll roll down the screen. We'll get to the bottom of that and then we'll roll back up, right? So it's a lot of scrolling up and down. Whereas now, if you go here into my extension company and I roll down the screen, the tabs stay at the top. And so now I can just flip quickly to the general tab, roll down there, go over to the, the product restrictions tab, the transaction tab. Again, I can roll down the screen. I don't lose those tabs at the top of the screen. This is, again, just one of those things that kind of helps you in your process. And with this is in vendor inquiry, customer inquiry, order inquiry, warehouse transfer inquiry, PO inquiry, and both the inventory inquiries. So just makes it a lot easier, makes those top columns kind of sticky in those inquiries at this point. All right, moving right along. The manual acknowledgement. So enhancing the manual acknowledgement screen. So one of the things that we found was if you are getting manual acknowledgements, if you're getting EDI acknowledgements, you're not dealing with this. But if you're getting manual acknowledgements, the screens, you have to go to 3 different places to update a PO to acknowledge it. Whereas if we could make it simple and in one place, it will make it much more efficient and your buyers will actually be interested in doing this. It'll be, reduces the time and effort that it takes to do this process, which is always a better thing to get better results with your buyers. So if I go here into POET, I got an acknowledgement from my vendor. If I come in here into manual acknowledgements, well, the first thing is I would have to go in to the PO and I'd have to maintain it, and I'd have to change the prices and the costs, or the costs and the dates and the quantities. But here in my screen, I can just come in to pull up my PO because it's in printed stage, and I would click acknowledge, which is how the normal screen works. Nothing I'm doing right now is new. So I put in my reference DEZ. I'll say, hey, it's due on 8/15. But then, because I'm using this enhancement, I just drill in, here is the PO, right? I didn't have to go in and maintain it and then acknowledge it. I actually can go and maintain it. These fields are updatable. So quantity, price, and due date are all updatable by me. So I could say, oh, well, they're only going to send me 5, and it's going to actually cost me $24, and they're going to ship it on 7/31. So I'll make that one change, and here they're good with it, but the price actually went down, and no change on the third one. So all we did was we did that update, and we do our final update. It's now an acknowledged stage. All those changes are now effective on that particular PO. And like I say, I didn't have to drill in to make that happen. The stage is now acknowledged. And if we look at the line item detail, the changes that I made are reflective here. All right. Moving right along. Next one. So if anybody on the phone is doing AP add-ons where you're getting a third-party freight bill, you know how hard that process is. They did an AP enhancement. If you were on some of the early versions of CSD, you know that AP was quite difficult to use. And then they went out in the field and they did a major quality of life enhancement where the tool is significantly better. It's tremendously better today. But what they didn't do was that customer didn't you get third-party freight bills that they applied, and so the process didn't get updated. And so we went in and we fixed this process because it's horrible the way it exists, and we made it really, really usable for your users. So if I go in here and I'm going to APECE, I've got 3 POs, right? And so I'll enter a new invoice and we'll say that the vendor is Roadway. And so it's an add-on invoice. And we'll say the amount is $45. And so now what we'll do is we'll go into the normal process. So we'll go in the normal process and we'll say 1007336-00 and we'll say list add-ons and we'll pick that guy and then we'll hit save. And now we have one, so now we'll go to PO add-ons again and we'll enter 1000737-00 list add-ons and we'll click that, we'll hit save. You guys are probably keeping up with me at this point. You understand how horrible, and I haven't even got through some of the worst parts of this yet. So I list that third add-on, gotta select it and hit save, and then so I've got something, and now I have to go to purchase orders, and I have to enter the purchase orders again into this invoice. So it's just like a huge, arduous, like so many keystrokes. So what we did here was a complete redo of this process. Like I say, somewhat depends on your process, and if you're doing this, you'll understand. So we go in here, and instead of hitting PO add-ons, we click on add-ons by vendor. So I click on add-ons by vendor. I say I'm looking for Louisiana Pacific. And it says, okay, here are all the received and costed POs that are out there. So I just find my guys. I pick that one, that one, that one. Click list add-on. So it brings all 3 of them up here. And I say, oh, okay, that's going to be $15, $15, and $15 because I'm going to spread that $45 between the 3 of them. I'm going to do the update right now. And I could hit save or save and new. I'm going to hit save, but if I hit save and new, it would allow me to put in another vendor if I wanted to. I click save. I'm costed, I'm fully costed, because if I go over here to purchase orders now, I have to pull up the headers, they're here. It's all done. It's all done. They've already been placed in here. So if you have AP people that are doing this today, they will know exactly what I'm talking about, and they will say, please get this, because it will save you hundreds of hours of keystrokes and whatnot in a day. All right, moving right along. Check rec option in GLET. So when this came right from Jan, and Jan said, hey, or I'm sorry, was Christy. I've got to give credit where credit is due. Christy said when you're doing a manual GL entry for cash, we need to make sure that it automatically goes to check rec so it doesn't get missed. So it automatically fills in the cash account for you in the check rec. So if I go into here, into GLET, and I enter a new group, and I say, let's enter new, and I can say, let's say I put in service charges. Nothing's going to happen with service charges, right? It's just $100, and my check rec is right here. Nothing's filled in. I hit save and new, and now I'm going to put in cash. and I'll put in a credit of $100. But because it is cash, it immediately filled in my bank and marked it as an adjustment. So now it's automatically showing up in my check rec center so it can be balanced out when I get my check reconciliation. So saves you the time and effort to make that happen. All right. I will hit one last thing while we have a few minutes and I don't see any more questions. CD Ship. So CD Ship is a product we've been building for a number of years. This is about small package shipping. For anybody who's been involved in small package shipping, whether you deliver most of your product or you only deliver a small set of your product, or you only deliver by UPS or FedEx, this is the tool for you. You know, there are some great manifesting systems like Starship that do LTL and all kinds of other stuff. That's not what this is for. This is intended to be an interface between CSD and UPS WorldShip and FedEx Ship Manager. It's not intended to do full manifesting as a solution. But what it does is we create an order within CSD. We then go out to the shipping station. So out here, just like we would at any time, this is WorldShip, right? This isn't some magic tool. This is the regular UPS WorldShip tool. I also have FedEx Ship Manager on this box, but I would fill in the order number and hit ship. It's going to fill it in the key to import slot. It's going to bring their address information along with it. And then I could weigh out the package or packages for it. So it says it's $32.64. I'm going to hit process. It's going to produce my label. And then it's going to say it's shipped. So now if I go back to CSD and pull up my order here, my order here is no longer in pick stage, it's now in ship stage as of today. I've got one package, so if I click on that, it takes me over to the tracking numbers. It's actually a live link that we created right out to the UPS site or the FedEx site, depending on which it is. And then on the totals page, I have my actual freight, the 3264 that we saw in WorldShip that came through into actual freight. Now I used an ARSB record within the system, and I said anything that comes through from a shipping solution, I want to bump up by 10%. So instead of charging them $32.64, we're going to charge them $35.90, whatever that case may be, because there's a lot of options in ARSB and what you can do. Now, if I go back to that shipping manifesting station and said, oh, you know, we didn't mean to ship this yet, or the customer said cancel it, or whatever the reason, if I go back to my shipping station and I void that package, it says it's been voided. I can come back over here to order inquiry. The order is now back in pick stage. The package is gone. And on my totals page, those dollar amounts are zeroed out. So it will unship it just as well. Now, we also do warehouse transfers. You should have seen that on this page. So warehouse transfer is an option. The one thing you should know is if you void a warehouse transfer, we can ship a warehouse transfer, but if we void that warehouse transfer, the warehouse transfer will be out of UPS WorldShip, but it will still be shipped in CSD because we don't reverse the GL. There isn't a way to do that. Once you ship a transfer, it's shipped. You have to receive it and then do an adjustment later. And as I say, FedEx Ship Manager is the other option here, and you can go ahead and ship with FedEx Ship Manager as well. It will do the same type of thing. There's no rate shopping. It's not intended to be one of those robust tools that do all those other things. It's just intended to facilitate the basics of the connection. And it's, you know, we try to price it right for customers who are doing that small package shipping. The one thing we're looking at down the road, if we had enough demand, was to implement a TWL solution where you could do this with TWL. that's going to require some work, because instead of putting an order, you're going to put in a carton and ship the carton through TWL. So I need some willing brides to be willing to work it through with me, and then I'm be willing to take the leap of faith. So as I say, we're going to continue to grow this catalog. That's going to be this is where we are today, but the list was double what it was at last tug. We really just started with the CD search, and everything after that you saw for first tug, and everything this year was the new stuff, like the Dunning letters and screen acronyms and stuff like that. So we probably had half from last year and half from this year, and we're looking to increase that volume all the time as we find opportunities. So if you have any questions, you're interested, want to move forward, want to get more details, please reach out to myself directly. Reach out to Mark Fox if he's your CSM, or Monica, or just send a request to support and tell them that's what you're looking for, and somebody will follow up with you. So I know everybody's time is very valuable. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today and look at some of the things we're doing. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.